My world was shattered by abuse, but within the broken pieces, I found strength, resilience, and the extraordinary journey to forgiveness. This is a story that happened when I was very young. It started around the time I was 5 back in the 80s and was the beginning of the worst 5 years of my life. I was a teenage unplanned pregnancy, so my mom was a single mom for the first few years of my life. It wasn't too bad though. My mom and I were not alone. We lived with my mom's parents and my grandparents. My mom's younger sister was also still living at home. We were safe and happy. Then my mom met a guy, let's call him Joe for privacy purposes. Joe seemed like a dream come true. He was nice to me and my mom. He took us places and brought us gifts. It was awesome, and when he proposed, my mom and I were both happy. They got married, and my mom thought we would now be a happy family. We didn't know how wrong we were. It started off great at first. We had left my grandparents and moved into a home together. We had some really good times, but things took a turn for the worse after the first few months. Joe had a really bad temper, and it would come out when my mom or I upset him. He would yell, throw things, and break stuff. Then he started hitting my mom and me. He would punch and kick us. He got worse and worse. He started beating me up to get back at my mom. It was a nightmare for 3 years. My mom was too scared to leave him or tell on him. I was too small when I told people thought I was lying because I wanted to go back to my grandparents' house. The weirdest thing was Joe was a lot like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We had some really good times, vacations, holidays, and more. When he was nice, it was amazing. When his other side came out, it was hell. We did finally have something good and bad happen. My mom was pregnant. She was happy to be a mom again, and I was excited to be a big brother. It was also bad though, because we were further tied to Joe, and who knew what he would do to the baby. When my baby brother was born, things were good for a while. We were pretty happy. I had withdrawn a lot though. I stayed in my room watching TV and reading. I figured out of sight, out of mind. I thought, if I avoided Joe, he wouldn't bother me. I should have continued this plan, but I was blinded by the happiness and peace that came with my brother's birth. It all started back one day. Joe had a toothache and was in a foul mood. He had been yelling at my mom all day. My brother was teething and had been fussy, so Joe was extra grumpy, yelling at her to get the baby quiet. My mom called me to dinner, and I walked out of my room. I was walking slowly and quietly because I didn't want to make Joe any more upset. Well, I guess I went too slow and got in the way because he got mad, yelled, and threw the remote control and hit me in the side of the head and eye. It was terrible. I was bleeding and bruised. My mom had finally had enough and left him with me and my brother. We went to my grandparents' house. They took pictures of my eye and called the police, but they wouldn't do anything. Social services investigated, but they didn't do anything either. We were happy at my grandparents and safe, but Joe was very slick. He called my mom and said the right words, and after a while talked her into coming back with promises to be better. He actually was for a while, but then he went back to his old ways. He even tried to beat my brother. I took a lot of beatings for him because I loved him and wanted to protect him. It all came crashing down one December night when I was 9. My mom had forgotten to pay the phone bill and the phone got turned off. She was at work working a double twin and third shifts, and Joe was due to go into the same plant for his third shift in a different department. He was in Reged when he found out the phone was off. He dragged me out of bed and we drove up the store just up the road from our house. He called my mom at work on the payphone. He was yelling and cussing at her about the phone bill. Then he said something that sent chills down my spine. He told her if she didn't get home in an hour, he would kill me. I was terrified. We went back to the house and I went to my room. Joe kept ranting and raving. I was so scared he called me into the living room and attacked me. He was beating me with a belt all over. He grabbed me and threw me into a wall. He pulled the chin cabinet down on top of me. Then he grabbed a broom and continued to beat me. The beating kept up on and off for several hours. I was in pain and covered in bruises and blood. It was time for him to go to work. He got dressed to go and told me that if I went to school in the morning, he would beat me when I got home. I guess he knew with all my wounds the school would do something. I was scared, but I needed help. I couldn't change out of my pajamas because I hurt too much. I slowly limped my way to my bus stop barefoot and still in my incredible Hulk pajamas. The bus driver pulled up, opened the door, took one look at me, and got me on the bus and immediately drove to school. Then everything moved so fast. Before I knew it, I was talking to social services and the police. They ended up taking me to my grandparents, who got custody of me. I was happy to be with my grandparents, whom I love, and happy to be safe, but I missed my mom and my brother. Strangely enough, the police never did anything to my stepfather. It was a different time, I guess. It was a few more years before my mom got the courage and left him, but she finally did. She ended up meeting a high school sweetheart and getting remarried. She and my brother finally had a happy life like I did, and we were back in each other's life. I found out later that my stepfather had been orphaned at the young age of 5 when his parents and older sister died when his dad's small plane crashed. He was then raised by a very physically and mentally abusive aunt and uncle. It doesn't excuse what he did, but it explains it. I eventually ran into him on social media. I forgave him and let go of the anger and hurt I had been holding on to. He had gotten a lot of mental help and seemed to be doing good. I convinced my brother to talk to him because Joe was his biological dad, and Joe had found his mom's family and extended members of his dad's family, whom he lost touch with when his parents died. I told my brother that it would be good for him to meet some of his family from his father's side, as he had never met them. I don't know my dad at all, and would have loved to have that connection. As Joe continued to change and work hard to be better, I strangely enough became his biggest cheerleader. He would come to me for advice or to get me to mediate between him and my brother if they bumped heads, as their relationship tended to be rocky. My brother is like my mom. He holds on to grudges for a long time. I don't know who I am, like being willing to forgive and forget. I know some of you will think I am crazy for forgiving him and actually helping him, but it really brought me inner peace, and also I took pity on him for what he had been through as a child. That kind of trauma could turn anyone into a monster, which is why I went to lots of therapy to help me get over mine. Your thoughts matter. As I share this deeply personal journey, I'd love to hear your reflections. Have you faced similar challenges or found strength in forgiveness? Drop a comment below, and let's create a space for support and shared experiences. Your words could be the encouragement someone needs today.